There comes a moment when you realize you've been holding on to someone not because they're still choosing you, but because you don't know who you are without them. That moment is confronting. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing the only way forward is to jump. But you're terrified of the fall, so you stay, you hold on. Not because it's working, not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. And we all crave the comfort of the known, even when it's hurting us. But let me tell you something that may feel hard to hear. Holding on doesn't mean you're strong. Sometimes it means you're stuck. Sometimes it means you're scared. And sometimes it means you're trying to revive a version of love that no longer exists, or maybe never existed at all. You see, we're taught that letting go is giving up, that it's defeat, that it's quitting on someone. But that's not the truth. Letting go is often the most courageous act of love you'll ever do, not just for them, but for yourself. It's not weakness, it's wisdom, because it means you've stopped hoping that potential will magically become reality. It means you've stopped negotiating with someone's bare minimum. It means you've chosen truth over illusion. The truth is, sometimes people don't change, sometimes they don't show up. Sometimes they can't meet you in the middle because they're not even standing on the same ground. And no matter how deeply you love them, love can't fix someone who isn't willing to grow with you. You can give everything and still feel empty, because what's missing isn't your effort, it's their reciprocation. You may be thinking, but what if I give it one more chance? That's fair. We all want to believe that love deserves one more try, but how many one more tries have you already given? How many times have you walked yourself back into pain, convincing yourself this time would be different? It's okay to outgrow someone. It's okay to say, I love you, but I love me more. Because the truth is, if someone wanted to stay, they would. If someone saw your value, they wouldn't keep you guessing. If someone truly cared, they wouldn't ask you to shrink, to silence your needs, to settle for the scraps of their affection. You're not asking for too much, you're just asking the wrong person. Letting go isn't about pretending it didn't matter. It did, it mattered deeply, but just because something mattered doesn't mean it's meant to stay. Some people are only chapters in your story, not the whole book, and that's okay. Letting go honors the role they played. It says, thank you for the lesson, now I'm moving forward. But here's what's even more important. Letting go is also a message to your future self. It's the beginning of something truer. It says, I refuse to keep reliving the same pain just because I'm afraid of starting over. It's a promise that you will no longer beg for love you deserve to receive freely. You are not weak for walking away. You are not cold for no longer answering calls that once melted you. You are not selfish for choosing peace over chaos. You are growing, you are healing, you are stepping back into alignment with yourself, and that is the most powerful kind of strength. People might not understand your decision. They may say you gave up too easily. But they don't know the nights you cried, the times you gave grace when none was given back, the inner battles you fought between what your heart felt and what your spirit knew. No one has the right to judge the boundaries you set to protect your healing. You don't have to explain your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you, and you don't have to convince anyone that your worth is real. Your actions will speak for themselves. Your peace will speak for itself. Your freedom will speak for itself. Letting go doesn't mean you're done loving. It means you're starting to love in a way that includes yourself. It means you're learning that real love, healthy love, doesn't require self-abandonment. It means you've finally understood that the person meant for you will not require you to betray yourself to keep them. So when you feel weak for letting go, remember, it's easier to stay and numb the pain with hope. It's harder to leave and face the silence that follows, but it's in that silence that you rebuild. It's in that space that you meet yourself again, and the person you meet on the other side of letting go. That person will be stronger, more grounded, and more in tune with their worth than ever before. This is not the end, this is the beginning, and it starts with one brave decision to let go. not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally started loving yourself. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't just sit quietly in the background, it follows you. It lingers in your chest like an unanswered question, whispering, "Why wasn't I enough?" And so you chase it. Not just the person, but the closure, the explanation, the redemption you think will finally make it all make sense. You tell yourself, if I just talk to them one more time, maybe they'll see, maybe they'll change, maybe they'll come back, but they don't. Or if they do, they come back half-hearted, momentarily interested, just long enough to keep your hope alive and your healing on hold. And that's the trap, chasing what hurt you, thinking it'll be the thing that heals you. But here's the truth. You can't heal what you keep chasing. You can't fully step into peace while you're still running after what broke you. It's easy to convince yourself that the only way to move forward is to fix what went wrong. To get that one last conversation, to say the thing you didn't say, to prove you were worth staying for. But healing isn't found in fixing people who left you behind. It's found in fixing the part of yourself that believed you had to chase love in the first place. Because, let's be honest, deep down you know that what you're chasing isn't just a person. It's validation. It's a sense of being chosen. It's the fantasy that if they come back, it'll erase the rejection you felt. But no amount of chasing someone who doesn't value you will ever restore your self-worth. You're handing over your healing to someone who already showed you they don't know how to hold it. Every time you go back, every time you check their page, respond to their text, or replay their voice in your head, you reopen a wound that was trying to close. It's like breaking your own heart over and over, just to see if maybe this time it will feel different. But it never does, because healing doesn't happen in circles. It happens when you break the cycle. Here's what makes it even harder. You had moments with them that felt real. You shared laughter, secrets, maybe even long nights talking about dreams and forever. And those memories are like emotional anchors. They keep you tied to a version of the past that no longer exists. So you chase that feeling, that connection, hoping it'll return, but memories don't mean it's right. Chemistry doesn't mean it's healthy, and history doesn't mean it has a future. Sometimes we confuse intensity with destiny. We think that just because something felt powerful, it must have been meant to last. But not everything that starts with fire ends in forever. Sometimes that fire burns because there's a lesson buried in the flames, one that won't reveal itself until you step away and stop chasing the smoke. I want you to think about how much energy you've spent trying to get someone to see you, how many hours you've wasted waiting for a message, interpreting mixed signals, rewriting conversations in your head. Now imagine pouring that energy into yourself, into rebuilding your boundaries, into rediscovering the parts of you that were neglected in that relationship, into finding peace without needing a person to hand it to you. Because healing doesn't come from someone else saying, "I'm sorry." It comes from you saying, "I deserve better, and I'm done chasing anything that makes me forget that." And I get it. Walking away when your heart still cares feels like betrayal. But staying in a cycle that keeps reopening old wounds is the real betrayal. It's a betrayal of your worth, of your future, of your right to peace. There's nothing noble about fighting for someone who isn't fighting for you. That's not love, that's self-abandonment. You're not healing by chasing. You're delaying your healing by staying emotionally entangled with someone who already let go. And the longer you chase, the longer you postpone the kind of love that doesn't make you beg, wonder, or shrink. You deserve love that shows up, that chooses you, that sees you not as an option, but as a priority. But in order to receive that kind of love, you have to stop chasing the kind that left you fragmented. You have to stop being available for the people who only love you in fragments, when it's convenient or when their loneliness kicks in. Letting go of the chase is not letting go of love, it's making space for real love to enter. The kind that doesn't ask you to chase it, prove yourself to it, or bleed for it emotionally. The kind of love that feels safe, not exhausting, steady, not unpredictable, clear, not confusing. So if you're still holding on, if you're still checking your phone hoping their name will appear, I want you to ask yourself one question. What am I really chasing? And if the answer is peace, joy, clarity, or closure, know this: none of that will ever come from the person who walked away. It comes from the moment you stop chasing and finally turn back toward yourself, because healing isn't a destination someone else takes you to. It's a path you walk alone until the day someone finds you there, not because you chased them, but because you healed enough to finally attract someone walking in the same direction. We live in a world that rushes us through everything, even pain. We're told to move on, stay strong, or don't cry over someone who wasn't worth it. But the truth is, grief doesn't follow a timeline, it doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't wait until it's convenient. Grief hits you when you least expect it, in the middle of a song, a scent, a quiet afternoon, and when it comes, it doesn't care how much time has passed. That's why I want you to understand this. If you're going to let go and move on, you must first grieve, fully, completely, unapologetically. You must allow yourself to feel the sadness, the rage, the confusion, the aching emptiness. Not just touch them, feel them, because anything you suppress will find a way to surface later, and often in places and relationships that don't deserve it. Grief is not weakness, it's love that has nowhere to go. It's your heart trying to catch up to what your mind already knows. They're not coming back, and that realization doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it sneaks in slowly. Sometimes it crashes down in one violent moment. But whenever it comes, it deserves to be honored. You have to mourn what could have been, the future you imagined together, the version of them you hoped they'd become. The moments you counted on, the way they made you feel when things were good. That loss is real, and pretending it doesn't matter won't help you heal, it'll only delay the process. And here's something even more tender to understand. Sometimes what you're grieving isn't just the person. It's the version of yourself you were when you loved them, the softness, the vulnerability, the belief that this time maybe love would last, and that version of you. They deserve compassion too. They weren't naive. They were hopeful, and hope isn't something to be ashamed of, it's something to be proud of. But after grief comes the turning point, the place where most people get stuck, the search for clarity. We become obsessed with understanding why. Why they left, why they stopped trying, why they changed, why they loved us one day and forgot us the next. We think if we can just find the right explanation, we'll finally be able to let go. But the truth is, you will never have all the answers. Even if they gave you every reason, even if they opened up their heart and told you the exact moment they fell out of love, it still wouldn't fill the hole, because you're not just grieving an explanation. You're grieving a connection, you're grieving attachment, and attachment can't be explained away. It has to be released. That's why at some point you must choose closure over clarity, not because you're giving up on truth, but because you're choosing peace over obsession. You're choosing to stop digging through the past, looking for a clean ending to a story that was always messy. You're saying, I may never know why, and that's okay, because I know I deserve better. Clarity is logical. But closure is emotional, and closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you, from the moment you decide to stop checking their page, to stop rereading old messages, to stop assigning meaning to every silence. Closure is choosing yourself over and over, even when your heart still whispers their name at night. It's in those moments, the quiet ones, where closure really happens, when you cry without needing someone to hold you, when you smile without needing their validation, when you remember the pain but no longer feel controlled by it, when you stop rewriting the ending and start writing a new beginning. You don't need one final talk. You don't need their blessing to move forward. You don't need them to say they're sorry for you to begin healing. That moment you thought would bring relief, it probably won't, because no words from them will ever undo what happened. What heals you is your decision to stop waiting for a different past and start building a different future. So grieve, don't rush through it. Sit with the sadness until it teaches you something. Let the tears fall without judgment. Allow yourself to be human, but when the grief has said all it needs to say, when the ache has been fully felt, it's time to close the chapter, even if there's a paragraph missing. You owe yourself a life beyond the pain. You owe yourself mornings that begin with hope, not regret. Nights that end in peace, not wondering. You owe yourself freedom, not just from them, but from the part of you that kept going back, waiting for a different ending. So stop chasing answers, start choosing closure, and trust that you're not walking away empty. You're walking away full of lessons, full of self-awareness, full of strength. You're walking away not because they weren't important, but because you finally are. This is your permission to close the book, even if the last page didn't make sense. There's a part of you that still hopes, not for the person they are now, but for who you believed they could be, that version of them you saw in the beginning, the way they made you feel seen, desired, safe. You replay those moments like a highlight reel, their smile, that one night they held you like you were everything, the message they sent that made you believe this time it was real. But what if I told you? You're not holding on to them, you're holding on to a fantasy, and that fantasy, it's not your fault. It's what your heart built to survive the truth. It's the story you created to make the pain more bearable. We all do it. We rewrite memories, soften the red flags, amplify the good, and mute the bad. Why? Because we don't want to admit that what we wanted so deeply was never really there in the way we needed it to be. When someone shows us glimpses of love, when they give just enough to spark hope, but not enough to build something real, it creates confusion. And in that confusion, your mind starts filling in the blanks with possibility. Maybe they're just scared. Maybe if I'm more patient, they'll come around. Maybe I just need to love them harder and they'll realize I'm the one. But here's the truth most people avoid. If you constantly have to fill in the blanks, it's not real love. It's a fantasy you're sustaining to avoid the pain of letting go. You're not actually in love with who they are. You're in love with who they could have been if only they chose differently, if only they did the healing, if only they showed up the way you did. But love that is built on potential isn't love, it's projection. And no matter how much you wish someone into who you need them to be, if they're not choosing that version of themselves, you're loving a ghost. Replacing fantasy with truth is one of the hardest parts of healing, because it means dismantling a version of the relationship that gave you comfort, identity, and hope. It means facing the reality that those beautiful words they said weren't always followed by action, that the connection you felt may have been one-sided, that the what-ifs you clung to were never mutual dreams. They were your imagination trying to keep something broken from falling apart. And that's painful, because fantasy is addictive. It lets you stay connected without confronting the loss. It gives you a reason to keep waiting, keep checking your phone, keep hoping that someday they'll come back and live up to the potential you saw. But every day you do that, you're sacrificing your present for a future that may never come. Here's the truth that sets you free. You don't need to hate them to let go. You just need to stop lying to yourself about who they are. You need to stop romanticizing inconsistency. You need to stop interpreting silence as mystery. And you need to stop mistaking emotional chaos for passion. Real love is not confusing. It's not breadcrumbs. It's not disappearing acts followed by sweet words to reel you back in. Real love is steady, it's mutual, it shows up, not just in words, but in effort, in presence, in consistency. And if someone isn't offering you that, then whatever you're feeling, it isn't the love you deserve. It's the love you're settling for because the fantasy feels better than the truth. But truth is what sets you free. Truth is what helps you rebuild. When you stop clinging to what could have been, you make space for what can be. You reclaim your energy. You begin to see things clearly, not through the lens of hope or longing, but through the lens of self-respect. And you'll start to remember the nights you cried yourself to sleep while they lived their life without a thought for yours. The times you gave them second, third, fourth chances, and they used them like disposable gifts, the way you shrunk yourself to fit into the cracks of their attention, thinking that if you just held on tighter, they'd finally stay. Truth isn't cold, it's clarifying. It doesn't make the memories disappear, but it strips them of their illusion. It lets you feel the pain without the pressure to pretend. It lets you say, yes, there were good times, but good moments don't make a person good for me. You're not bitter for waking up. You're not cruel for letting go. You're not heartless for choosing truth over potential. You're finally seeing clearly. You're finally coming home to your intuition, the part of you that knew all along that love shouldn't feel like guessing, like chasing, like begging for scraps. So take a deep breath and let the fantasy fall apart. Let the illusion die so that you can rise. The love you were craving from them, give it to yourself now. The clarity you were waiting for from their mouth, speak it to yourself. You don't need their permission to move on. You just need to stop waiting for the version of them that only existed in your mind. The truth may sting, but it will never betray you. The fantasy feels sweet, but it will starve you in the end. Let go. Not because you're heartless, but because you're finally done pretending. Loving someone is powerful. It opens your heart, awakens your hope, and creates a vision of forever that feels so real you can almost touch it. But there's a truth many people avoid because it's painful to face. Just because you love someone doesn't mean they are choosing you. And love, real love, requires more than just feeling. It requires choosing. You can't carry a relationship by yourself. You can't be the only one showing up, reaching out, compromising, waiting, hoping, forgiving. That's not love, that's a performance, a survival pattern. A way of saying, if I just do a little more, maybe they'll see me. Maybe they'll finally choose me. But loving yourself means finally understanding this. You don't have to prove you're worthy of being chosen. You already are. Let's be honest. When someone isn't fully choosing you, you feel it in the hesitation, in the mixed signals, in the inconsistent texts, in the way they pull you close and then push you away, and your heart tells you, hold on, they just need time, they're scared, they're going through something, I'll wait, I'll be patient. And so you stay. You shrink, you silence your needs, you tell yourself not to be too much. You applaud their crumbs like their grand gestures. You call it loyalty, but deep down it's fear. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone. Fear of what it means if the person you gave your heart to didn't choose to keep it. But here's the truth that will break your heart before it sets you free. You are not meant to chase love. Love that is real doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't make you wait in confusion. It doesn't feel like anxiety wearing the mask of romance. When someone is choosing you, they make it clear. You don't have to decode them. You don't have to compete with their distractions. You don't have to fight to be seen. They show up, they lean in. They don't just want you. They value you and they act accordingly. But too often, we stay with someone who's not choosing us because we haven't fully chosen ourselves. We think love means loyalty at all costs, that staying proves our worth, that being the one who never gives up will eventually make us the one they stay with. But that's not how love works. Love isn't earned through suffering. It's not a test you pass by tolerating pain. It's not about sticking around in the hope that your devotion will magically teach someone how to love you the way you deserve. Loving yourself means drawing a line, not to punish them, but to protect you. It means saying, I'm not going to keep investing in someone who won't meet me halfway. It means realizing that the way someone treats you is not a reflection of your value, but of their capacity to love. You don't need to beg someone to choose you. You don't need to chase, convince, or sacrifice the deepest parts of yourself to earn their affection. Because real love doesn't come with conditions like, be less needy, then I'll stay. Don't expect too much, then we'll be okay. Don't ask where this is going, just enjoy the moment. No, real love is brave, real love is honest, real love meets you at your level. And if someone is making you feel like your needs are a burden, like your presence is optional, like your love is a favor they can take or leave, they're not choosing you. They're using your loyalty as a cushion for their indecision. Let that truth land. There is a version of you stronger, freer, more grounded, who no longer tolerates emotional ambiguity, who no longer waits for someone else to see her when she's already shining, who doesn't need a partner to feel complete, but knows that if someone wants to walk beside her, they better be walking at her pace. That version of you is waiting on the other side of this heartbreak. And you don't reach her by settling. You reach her by choosing yourself even when it hurts, and yes, it will hurt. Because walking away from someone you love is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But walking away is not the same as giving up. It's not weakness. It's not cold. It's the most powerful act of self-respect you'll ever perform. You're not walking away because you don't care. You're walking away because you finally do. You care about your peace, your future, your emotional well-being. You care enough to stop accepting almost love, almost effort, almost commitment. So let this be the day you stop making excuses for someone who's not choosing you. Let this be the moment you say, I love myself too much to stay in limbo. Let this be the beginning of your return to truth, to clarity, to power, because the kind of love you want, the kind that chooses you fully, proudly, without hesitation, it's out there. But it can only find you when you stop settling for anything less. Letting go isn't a one-time moment. It's a journey, a quiet, unseen act of courage repeated over and over in the stillness of your nights. In the way you stop checking your phone, in the breath you take before responding, in the mornings you wake up and choose not to reopen a door that once felt like home. It's not easy, no one can deny that. Because love leaves a residue, it lives in your memories, your hopes, your body. Sometimes it lives in the part of you that still waits for a different version of them to show up and get it right. But the truth is, healing doesn't come from holding on. It comes from honoring what was and then surrendering what can no longer be. You let go not because the love wasn't real, but because it's no longer right. You release them not because you're bitter, but because your soul is ready to rise. You stop chasing answers, approval, closure, not because you've hardened, but because you've softened into grace. You've realized that loving yourself means not settling, not shrinking, not waiting. It means stepping into the truth even when it hurts more than the lie. You've learned now that clarity doesn't come from them. It comes from the still voice inside you that finally says enough. You've understood that grief isn't weakness, it's sacred, that fantasy must make room for reality. That closure isn't given, it's chosen. That real love starts not when someone finally sees you, but when you finally see yourself. And the most spiritual moment of all, it's when you let go, not in anger, not in haste, but in peace. When you close the door gently, bless what was, and begin walking, not away, but forward. So if you've been holding on, if your heart feels torn between hope and hurt, if you've spent too many nights wondering if maybe, just maybe, they'll come back and finally choose you, let this be your reminder. You are already chosen by life, by your future, by the version of you who is becoming more whole every day. You don't need them to come back. You don't need one more message. You don't need to be picked to be powerful. You just need one decision. Let go and watch how peace begins where pain once lived.